I think, yes, in a way. I think I think it will give you a point to reflect on. It will not give you an answer, but I always, like, my book will be more about embracing your cultural identity, accepting who you are and being able to pick and choose like what you want from each side, because I feel like I remember when I was growing up, there was at some point that I was like, I didn't want to be considered Bengali because there was so many restrictions. But now that I'm much older, I'm able to see the beauty behind the Bengali culture, which was something that I could not see before. So I feel like it's like the book is more about accepting yourself, embracing yourself, seeing the fact that you have so many cultures within you, more like an asset. And I always say, like, people who have multiple cultures in them, maybe, like, I think they're like interesting people. It's a conversation starter, even though initially I never thought of that of myself. Like, literally, I was like, I don't want to spend 30 minutes explaining my history to people, but now I'm like, at least I think I have something to talk about.
Welcome back to Living the Next Chapters, an author podcast. We get to meet great authors from around the world. And when I have somebody on my screen that you need to meet, I want to introduce them because you're going to love what my author guest is up to. My author guest even has a new podcast, which makes me super happy because that's another conversation on another show for another day. But Urmi's here together. We're going to talk about her journey as an author. So many great things. I'm so excited to have Urmi on the podcast. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the new podcast. I'm still smiling because you just told me you have a new show. Can we talk about that for a second? Let's tell everybody about your podcast. Get you a whole bunch of new listeners coming to your show. What's the name of your show? What's it about? Come on, brag a little bit. Congratulations, by the way.
So my podcast, I just launched it. I launched it basically this week, and it's called Stories Beyond Borders. And basically, it's about stories of immigration, third culture kids, people who are multicultural, cross-cultural. And this is the reason why I created this podcast is because I get to go to a lot of podcasts where I talk about my show of being a third culture kid. And I was like, you know what? Why do I not create something where I give the opportunity for other people like me to speak and share their story? So that's how the podcast was created. There was a lot of work behind, I must say, and it's completely brand new, but there's always a lot of excitement, having a microphone and speaking like on a microphone and, having people. And I do like interviewing people. I do like connecting with people. So I was like, why not do it? And it was one of my goals that I put on my goal setting type of thing or goal list that I had for the year. And now I finally achieved it. So I'm very happy of how things are going. I created also an Instagram page where I'm putting things and I can see how it's, getting attention. So I'm happy on how things have started so far.
You do a lot of guesting. You're on a lot of shows. I looked you up on YouTube, for example, and it's like, Urmi. You're like everywhere, which is great.
Yeah.
So now you're going to be the host of the show. What's different between being a guest and being the host for you?
I feel like if you're a host, you do have to do a lot of preparation. I think there's a lot of things that happen behind the scene, such as, researching the person, giving the questions to the person, or at least giving an outline. Then once you're done recording, you have to edit the episode. And then you have to thank the person. You maybe have to ask the person to review or leave a note or something. And you have to do a heavy promotion of the episode. I feel like share the links to everyone. So there's a lot of work as a host. I feel like as a guest, it's just easy peasy. You just show up and that's it.
Yeah.
But as a host, there's a lot of work happening. And I feel like there is, like, for someone who has a podcast, I think they need to have a little bit of like initiative. You have to have that kind of spirit. And you also need to have a little bit of an entrepreneurial type of mindset, I feel like, because you really have to be innovative, especially if it's something new. You really have to make sure that you're accountable for whatever you decide to do.
Okay, Urmi, tell everybody, first of all, I'd like to start here. Where are you? Like, where do you live? Where are you in this big world of ours?
So I'm a fellow Canadian like you. I'm based in Montreal. It's not
Yay.
my birthplace actually. I was born and raised in Italy and I moved to Canada about 15 years ago. But I am
Wow.
Canadian by law. So that's why I say I'm a fellow Canadian. So this is where I'm based.
Nice. Excellent. Now, okay, my name is Dave. It's kind of a boring name. It has meaning, but it's very kind of common. It's a common name, right? Dave, David. Your name, for me, when I saw you come in and we had a pre-chat and I see you everywhere, your name is very unique to me. Does your name have like a special meaning attached to it? Like, is there a story there? Come on.
Yeah, it's so basically it's a name from Bangladesh. And this is where my parents are from, and it means wave.
Oh,
Like, the wave.
in the ocean, like waves in the
Yeah.
water. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and so I like to compare myself to a wave where I have like ups and down, but I also like to compare myself to a tsunami. You know what I mean? Like when something is not
Oh,
going right, I can be, as strong as a tsunami in that sense.
okay.
Yeah. So
Wow. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind. Keep the questions really easy here. I don't want a big wave of Urmi all over me here today. This is great. Okay, well, that's very interesting. I like that. I think David means like beloved or something,
yeah,
like something like
oh,
that.
that's nice.
Anyway, that's nice. Yeah, but again, it's so common. I can meet Davids everywhere. David, 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 David. But your name is so unique and beautiful. I just wanted to
Well, your name
highlight
is
that.
common
So,
on this side of the world, but if you go to
right.
Bangladesh, your name won't be common. Well, my name, I don't know if it's common in Bangladesh either. I've seen few people, but I haven't met that many people with my name. I have to say the truth. So, yeah, I guess we can say it's unique. I like to think it's
Right.
unique.
Yeah, when we like my wife and I have three adult children now, and when we had them, we gave them unique names that we didn't find common. My oldest son, his name is McMillan, which
Okay.
is different, McMillan, and my daughter's name is Hadley, Hadlee, Hadley, and then my youngest son is Sawyer. So we wanted some names that were unique. The only problem is when they go to a store where you can buy your name on a shirt, their names are not on any shirts. They're like, you gave me this unique name, but it's not on a mug. I can't buy it on a
Same.
thing. But
Same.
right?
Yes,
Right?
same.
So yeah, you know what it's like. That's good. I love your name. It's beautiful,
Thank
and
you.
I'm excited to have you on the show. You, beyond creating a brand new podcast, which I'm still smiling about, you are an author and a writer. You've been doing this. So I like to kind of go back to the origin of how this started for you, because there's authors listening and they're just starting. So hearing your story helps inspire them to become a writer, become an author, and write. How did it start for you? What was the origin to begin writing a book?
So it started in 2022 or 2021. I was reading another book back in the days. It was called Confessions of a Brown Girl, and it was like a self-published. It was also self-published, the book. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to this author because as I was reading her book, I felt like she was very accurate about, like, I felt like she was talking about my life. And that was how scary it was because I was like, like this person is talking about her story, but my story is very similar to hers. And so then what happened is I was like, I'm gonna reach out to this person, talk to her, see how she created her book. And then she was the person who actually initially told me about how to do the whole self-publishing thing. So she was like, oh, you like she told me about a little bit about her process, which was I was writing my book because I needed to write down my ideas, but I also needed to write down how I was feeling at that moment. She was going through a hard moment. And then as she was writing things, she didn't realize, but she created a book. And then she was like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna self-publish it. And then what happened is I was talking to another person, he's my friend, and he's also a self-published author, he's a professor. And I said, oh, you know what? I think I wanna like create a book. I wanna be a self-published author. So he suggested me this other book called How to Write a Book in 30 Days. And so I was reading that book. Now, I don't remember the author. I was reading that book, and I must say that it wasn't so useful to me because I feel like I knew how to, get started. I knew how to somehow write a book. And so after reading that book, I basically sit down every day for 30 days. And every time I was like writing like for 30 minutes or an hour. And my book is basically a memoir. So basically, I'm writing about my own life in Italy. I'm talking about my childhood, my teenagehood, and how it was for me to grow up in two different cultures. So what happened is I wrote it for 30 days, and now I was like, okay, what do I do now? And so I reached out to someone on it was called, I forgot the name of the website. It's called Fever, where you find basically all the
Yeah.
freelancer. And I
Yeah.
told this person, look, this is my first time. I have basically the meat of like I have all the content, I have like I have the actual script, but I don't know what to do next. So she helped me with the cover, she helped me with the editing, she helped me with the formatting, she helped me with the title. So I said to her, okay, take this, you do everything that you need to do, and I will pay you for that. So for that, it took like another 2 weeks, and then I would say after 6 weeks in total, my book was basically self-published on Amazon. So that's how it
Nice.
started. Yeah.
Okay, I have an idea for you. As I'm listening to again, I'm going back to, you can tell I love podcasting. I'm going back to your podcast for a second. You said you talked to the author for, Confessions of a Brown Girl.
Yes.
What about bringing that author on your new podcast as a guest?
I could actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Right?
Yes.
Why not? Right? That would be really good. I think it fits with what you're talking about. It's a thing to say thank you to them, because that helped you with your writing career,
It did.
which led to a podcast, right? It'd be nice to have them on and celebrate with them and
Yes.
shine a light on them too, right?
Yes.
So anyway, as you're talking, I'm thinking that would be fun to listen to.
Yes.
As a listener of your show, that'd be fun to hear you have that conversation with them, because I know you really admire them.
Yes,
Right?
I do.
It's a way for you to say thank you to them.
Yes,
well, right?
yes, I do. I do.
That's a free idea.
I just made a note. I just made a note about it.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so that's kind of how it started. Have you ever written anything before writing your book? Like, you were an avid writer, you've been writing your whole life? Is that kind of your story?
I had a blog, which was created in 2020, and the blog too it was my first time actually creating a blog. There's so much work behind it, especially when it comes to creating a website. I didn't think there was so much work, but there's so much work. And then that was the reason why I started the blog, because I told myself I have a little bit of time now, so I'm gonna start the blog and work on my writing skills through the blog. So I had a blog. I used to publish like articles just about my personal life, like once a week. Sometimes I changed the frequency. I made it like twice a month and things like that. So I used that as a way to really work on my writing skills, and that helped me. And then I had the blog for like 4 years, and then eventually I closed it because I also realized that blogging doesn't have so much of an effect compared to other things. Like, I was talking to different people, they were like, if you want to start on something, blogging is good, but if you want to get your message across, there are other ways, such as YouTube, such as podcasting. And I feel like it's probably right. I feel like people prefer to probably watch things or listen to things rather than like reading. But I'm a big reader, for instance. Like, I love reading. Like, I love reading so much. Like, I just like, I don't like, I'm also thinking, okay, I'm not a big blog reader, but I'm a book reader, like I love reading books. And I always
Right.
say, like, every reader is a writer. That's how I like to think of it. And I also like to think that every leader is also a writer, or vice versa. So I don't know. I feel like everything is just connected, and I feel like it's just how I see myself, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's unique. I like that you say that every reader is a writer, and basically every writer is a reader, maybe because it was both ways, right? That's unique. I like that. I think for those people that are listening that are thinking about writing, there's a lot of like, who would ever read my book? Like, there's so many amazing authors in the world. There's so many people who are talented. Who would ever care about me and what I have to say? If that person's talking to you, what would you say as a response to them?
I would say no one has the same story as you. for instance. And I have a lot of people always telling me that thing. Like, it's not just about books, it's just things in general. Like, why would I have a business when there are so many like me? But then I'm like, but no one does it the same way you do it, you know? And I feel like the same goes with the book as well. Like, I also told that to myself, why would anyone buy it? But it wasn't for, like, I'm not doing this for the people. I'm doing this first for myself, you know? Like, I want to
Yeah.
be able to and tell everyone, like, I'm got to write a book, you know? I am a self-published author. I have accomplished this because I feel like everyone's dream is to write a book, but no one actually does it, you know? It's just there, you know, but it's never concrete, this whole idea that we have. And for me, like when I wrote my first book, it was like, I want to be able to tell the world that I did it, you know? It doesn't matter that I don't have like a million copies. Whoever wants to read it would pick up the book and read it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy actually of the results because I didn't realize, but there are people who actually like read my book. Like I can see it on like on what is it called, KDP,
Yeah.
where you can see who buys it, when they buy it, and things like that. And I'm like, okay, you know, I did like it wasn't my whole purpose to like sell so many copies. My purpose was to, you know, have a message out there and be and feel accomplished as a person. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a good perspective. I like that, Urmi. Let's talk about your book. Let's talk about what you're writing and kind of who your audience is. Who do you envision as a reader? Tell us more about what you're writing.
So basically, the book is about a third culture kid, basically myself. So for those who do not know a little bit about my background, I am Italian by birth and Bengali by blood. So I was born and raised in Italy, and both of my parents are from Bangladesh. And when I was growing up, I always felt like I did not fit in from a cultural point of view. I did not feel I was Bengali enough. I did not feel I was Italian enough. But there was a lot of struggle, and I feel like at times the two cultures were in conflict with each other. Two cultures have
Hmm.
certain type of values that were not really coinciding with each other. And so I always felt like I was pulled in either one direction, but I was never thought to embrace both of them. And so I'm talking about this in the book and I'm talking about different experiences that happened to me as I was growing up. And I talk about this from a perspective of a South Asian woman. And I do like to specify this because being a South Asian woman comes with certain, I would not say challenges, because the Bengali culture is very gender biased. So that made it even more difficult for me in certain ways. And so I'm
Right.
talking about this in the book, and I talk about certain things, such as like one of my most vivid memories is me going to school, me being a Muslim girl going to, you know, a typical Catholic school and seeing a church and seeing the crucifix in the classroom, so seeing nuns at school and wondering who the hell are these people? You know, no one ever taught me about this. And so I'm talking about this in the book. I'm talking about how, you know, I was always told not to take religion classes at school because there was a fear that I was going to convert, or the other things such as, you know, you are not allowed to dress a certain way because this is not accepting in the Bengali culture. And
Yeah.
I'm living in Italy where I see everyone else around me dressed in another completely different way, whereas I was always told to be very modest, very covered, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm talking about this in the book. And my book is mainly for South Asian communities, but also to third culture kids, people who have multiple cultures within them. And sometimes they are in a path where they feel very lonely because they are not able to find people unlike them around them. And that's how I felt because while I was living in Italy, there were not that many immigrant kids around me. I was the
Right.
only one. I was literally the only one. Like in my school, I was the only one who had parents coming from Bangladesh. There were no other, you know, people from other countries or culture. Everyone around me was Italian. So I always felt like I really have to explain myself every single time to people because even for the
Yeah.
Italian community, it was something new to them to see someone who was different from them. And so I'm
Right.
talking about that in the book.
Okay. So, like here in Canada, I feel like we can always do better,
Yeah.
always. But I feel like in Canada, people come to Canada and feel like they can be themselves. That you don't have to become Canadian to be in Canada. You can come and bring your culture to Canada. You can live your culture in relative freedom. I don't think it's perfect,
Yeah.
but it's better than some places maybe that is more accepting of you to come with your culture to our country. Did you feel that way when you came here compared to kind of growing up? Is there a comparison at all?
So here's the thing. When I was living in Italy, here's how I felt. Like among my Italian people, I feel like they always made me feel I was Italian, that I was one of them. And then when I was, let's say, with the Bengali community, they always made me feel like I was one of them. But me, I didn't want to be either one. I wanted to be both. And so I always felt like it was hard for me to bring a little bit of each other's side in, like in one side or the other, you know? Because let's say I said something that was maybe not accepted in the Bengali community, then I was like always super judged, you know? So I always had to be
Yeah.
careful about the things that I was saying or not saying. And then when I moved to Canada, I must say I was pleasantly surprised about the amount of diversity because I feel like in Italy, when you're walking on the street, all you mainly see is Italian people. Now, maybe it's a bit different. It's been also a while since I moved. But
Yeah.
here in Canada, I feel like there is really a little bit of everything. Like literally, there is a bit of everything. And what's even more beautiful is that we have a lot of like mixes, you know, like you have people that are this and this, then you have people that are this and that, or like, you know, so a parent coming from one side, another parent coming from another part of the world. You have people born in a certain country, moving to Canada, like moving to Canada from another country. And I feel like that's the beauty of Canada. I feel like you can be whoever you want to be in Canada. And Canada, in a sense, is very welcoming in that sense. But at the same time, in Canada, especially Montreal, I feel like we celebrate really everything. Like we have now the Italian festival, then we have the Asian festival. So you are able also to, you know, be connected to your roots at the same time if you choose to have that, you know. So I feel like you can really be who you want to be. You can embrace whatever you want to embrace. And I feel like in my experience in Canada has been different, but different in a very positive way.
How hard is it to grow up in a community where you don't see people who look like you, talk like you, have the same culture, enjoy the same food, have the same kind of family structure, right? How hard is it to be the only one in the room?
It's it's difficult, I have to say, because like I feel like my teenage life especially would have been like I wish it was a bit different than what I had because you know my high school friends which they were pretty much all Italian, like I feel like they had a different teenage life than me. And so for instance they would go out to the cinemas and they would always ask me, oh, do you want to come? And I would always be like, no, sorry, I can't, you know, I'm not allowed to go out because there was a perception that if I went out, and especially if I went out with Italian people, there was a perception that I was going to become like that. So every time I really had to explain myself to them why I couldn't and this and that. And so that was very hard for me because I wish I was not explaining myself, you know? And in a way, I wish I also had a Bengali friend because I feel like if you were hanging out, and again, it's a perception, if you're hanging out with a Bengali friend, there is less of a worry that you turn to be something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then there's also the food.
The
There's the language. There's a lot of different things you're going to navigate.
Yeah, the food was also a big one. I remember I could not go out and have dinner or lunch with anyone, or I was always told not to go out and have lunch because the Italian cuisine is made a lot with pork and then we throw, you know, wine, you know, things like that. And I was always told, no, you're not going to eat outside. They don't eat the same thing as you. They'll eat, you know, cold cuts and things like that. You know, you have to be careful about everything that you eat. And because of that, I was like, okay, you know what? It's okay. I'm not even going to try. So I did not go to a lot of Italian restaurants when I was growing up. And people look at me and be like, but how come? But you're from Italy. I'm like, yeah, this is how I was raised.
Right. Was it lonely for you then growing up to not have like somebody who lived like you lived and
Yeah.
had the same culture as you have? Like, Was it lonely for you then?
At some point, yes. And that's why sometimes I feel like I wish I had a mentor, someone that was
Yeah.
like me. I did not have that. And that was another thing as well, was that when my parents moved to Italy and then I was born, I think I was one of the first one. At least that's what my father says, because I don't see anyone that was older than me. I did not have anyone in the community that was older than me. Everyone that came afterwards, they were all much younger than me. So they saw me as a role model. So I feel like it just put a lot more pressure and expectation on me on being the typical Bengali girl, especially because all these kids around me, they were just looking up to me. And I was like, I don't want to have that pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many languages can you speak?
I always say 4.5. This
4.5. What's the 0.5?
Spanish.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, see, okay, I have to say from my point of view, talking to you, that to me is your superpower, that you have all this different cultural variety, you can speak languages, you've been other places. I've been in Canada. That's it. I haven't lived anywhere else except Canada. I kind of know a little bit of French, even though I'm supposed to know more because I live here. But you know way more than I do, which gives you a bigger picture of the world than I have. So as much as growing up in Italy with a Bengali background and family, you have like an advantage over me in that you can go places, do things, and know things that I don't know. So I kind of look at you as inspiration just because of how you were raised.
It took me a while to accept that. I have to say the truth, because I had this type of conversation with close friends, people that are similar to me. This was after I moved to Canada, and I told they are the people who made me realize the fact that you having all this exposure, cultural exposure, and all these cultures within you just makes you an asset. It's your strength. You should see that as a strength. But it took me a while to see that as a strength, because, and I will tell you, and I will give you an example. Like, I went back to Italy last year, and I went back to the city that I was living in, Milan, where I was living before coming to Canada. And I did a high school reunion, and I went in front of my house where I used to live before moving to Canada. In that moment, I was feeling very bittersweet because I was seeing my younger self walking through that gate to go to school, coming back from school. But that place was no longer my home, like when I look at my all of my high school friends, they have a home to go back to because they always stayed in that one particular place. So all their memories are there. My memories are pretty much scattered all the places that I have lived. Like, I was born in Sicily, moved to Milan, then went to UK, came back to Milan. Like, everything is just literally scattered. Like, there isn't one particular place that I can go back to. Like, for me, home is a feeling, which is Italy. And now again, my parents are not living in Italy; they moved to UK. So that, so even that, So for me, that was a bitter sweet feeling, because I was like, I wish I could go back to this home where I was living, and I can always go back to it, but I cannot. I just can't.
So for somebody who feels like that or has lived in different places and maybe struggling with identity and finding your sense of who you are as a person because you've been in so many places, is that something your book is going to help them with?
I think, yes, in a way. I think it can. I think it will give you a point to reflect on.
Okay.
It will not give you an answer, but I always, like, my book will be more about embracing your cultural identity, accepting who you are and being able to pick and choose like what you want from each side, because I feel like I remember when I was growing up, there was at some point that I was like, I didn't want to be considered Bengali because there was so many restrictions. But now that I'm much older, I'm able to see the beauty behind the Bengali culture, which was something that I could not see before. So I feel like it's like the book, it's more about accepting yourself, embracing yourself, seeing the fact that you have so many cultures within you, more like an asset. And I always say, like, people who have multiple cultures in them, maybe, like, I think they're like interesting people. it's a conversation starter, even though initially I never thought of that of myself. Like literally, I was like, I don't want to spend 30 minutes explaining my history to people, but now I'm like, at least I think I have something to talk about.
Would you do anything different as a parent? Having your own family? Would you want to have a place where your children would be born and raised and that's their culture and you're not moving around so much? Would you want to do the opposite of what you grew up like?
Let me tell you this. I had a conversation about that with someone that came on my podcast yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and she's a parent, and she was telling me how she's raising like two third culture kids. So this person that I interviewed, she's from one country, and then her husband is from another country, and now they're living in a third different country. But one thing that they are doing with their kids is that whenever there is like, let's say, festivities like Christmas, they try to have all the ceremonies and tradition from each of the three cultures. And that
Oh,
was something that I wish I had instead of being told, no, you cannot have this. Like we did not grow up celebrating Christmas, or so we never
yeah,
had a Christmas tree, for instance. But I always thought that there is nothing wrong with having a Christmas tree at home. Like I'm not converting to anything, and so I
yeah.
feel like I would do it a bit differently. I feel like I would incorporate a little bit of everything from each culture, like Bengali culture, Italian culture, but then I will also give them the choice to choose, the option to choose, basically. Like, I don't want to impose anything on anyone. You decide what you want to be, but I'm going to introduce you to all these things that belong to me, and then you go ahead. Yeah.
Do you think growing up in all those different places was hard for you to create your own sense of identity, like who you are as a person?
Yeah. It took me a while. And I think Canada was the place that helped me to get the answer. Yes, because
Interesting.
yes, it was Canada actually. I think the whole struggle started when I moved to Canada, and people were asking me, where are you from? And I just struggled with an answer. I just
Right?
really struggled with this answer. And that was I would say that was the starting point of all this, reflection, understanding myself, and coming up with the conclusion. It did take me a while, I have to say. I needed to have conversations with people and have people to make me see myself as an asset, and having all these cultures, like, not to see the fact of having this many cultures as a bad thing, because I really thought that this is a bad thing. So it was really Canada, and that's why I always say to people, like, I am Italian by birth and Bengali by blood. I think it just really it clearly says what I am. And it's easy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to choose, because before I was always choosing. I was saying, oh, I'm Italian. Then people will look at me and be like, okay, but are you sure? And then I would say Bengali, and people were like, okay, but why do you have such a strong Italian accent? And I think it was a bit stronger before. I don't know if it's still strong. And even the whole Italian accent, I think it bothered me a little bit initially when I was speaking in English. But then now I'm like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I like having that accent. It shows my identity. I want people
Yeah.
to recognize me from the accent. I want people to recognize me also from the way I look, and then the rest, they will guess it.
So the beautiful thing for you is you could go to an Italian part of Montreal and be standing there and people talking Italian and they don't even know you know how to speak Italian, and you can hear exactly what they're saying and they have no clue. They think you don't understand them. So they just talk, 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 talk.
And yeah,
And you're like, hey, are you talking about me? Like
yeah.
you can hear them and understand
It
them. I
actually
like that.
happened a couple of times. We were in a restaurant. This was not referred to me. I was in a restaurant with a friend, and the waiter was like making a comment about the girl in Italian. I was just listening to it, and I was like, really? Like, I understand everything. He was making a comment about the girl. And then once I went to this coffee shop, and I always talk in Italian to this Italian coffee shop that I go. Like, I feel like that's how, like, I want to feel home, so I just start talking in Italian. And then there was an Italian man next to me, and he was like, oh my gosh, you speak Italian. And he was so happy, and he even paid for the coffee. I was like,
Come
that's it.
on.
That's it.
There you
Wonderful.
go.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
See, no, that's your advantage. I can't do that. Hear me? I can't do that. I like it. I like it. So between the book and the podcast, do you think there's a relationship between the book and the podcast? Are you going to try to build a bridge there?
I think there is a relationship, and I think it's always the theme of like around culture and being
Yeah.
multicultural. I think it's always the same theme. And because even with the podcast, it took me a while. I was like, what do I want to talk about? And I was like, I'm gonna make it easy. And I was like, this is what I want to talk about. I want to have conversation of people moving around, people struggling with their identity, feeling the same way that I felt. And then, maybe we can build a community from there and people can come together and feel less lonely because I feel like sometimes when you go through that journey, you do feel lonely. You feel lonely and you
Yeah.
feel abnormal. I think that's
Right.
that's probably the biggest thing. You feel abnormal because everyone around you doesn't have the same questions that you have.
Yeah. Now, I'm much older than you are. You hear me? I know that. And I'm very aware that I'm much older than you. But I know that when I was growing up a long time ago, and you can start laughing now, the last thing I wanted to do was stand out and be different
Mm,
than everybody else. Because when you're different, people don't know what to do with you as a person who's different. If you don't look like everybody else, sound like everybody else, if you don't fit in,
yeah,
you stand out.
yeah,
And when you stand out, you can sometimes be a target.
yeah,
Like people treat you different, or sometimes they're mean.
yeah,
Kids can be really mean, right? Kids can be very mean, especially if they don't understand you. And like for example, you don't eat that kind of meat. What? Well, what's wrong with you?
yeah,
Like that's normal. Like
yeah,
that's what we do here. You know. That then as soon as you're different, then they start whispering and they're like, Urmi doesn't eat meat. Like what's wrong with Urmi? Like right. And then now you feel like I just want to blend in with everybody. I just want to be like everybody else. Right.
yeah. That's how I felt, especially when I was a kid. I wanted to basically blend with everyone. I didn't want to be different. But now that I'm older, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to blend in. That's how I'm feeling. Now I'm like, I just want to stand out. And it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different, honestly. Like, there's no such bad thing. I feel like, when you're different, you do really stand out. And I think it makes it a bit more interesting when you're different. But I also feel like being different means you will eventually find your tribe. Yeah.
You said earlier you felt like you were an example for others to follow because you were a little bit older than others.
Yes.
Do you still feel like you're an example now? You're an author. You're a podcaster. You're kind of still being an example today, right?
I'm also in a different kind of environment. So I don't know for who
Right.
I am an example. Like if I was living
Mm-hmm.
in Italy and growing up with the same community of Bengali people, yeah, probably I would still be that example. But I'm also far away from them and I'm in an environment where everyone can be whatever they want to be. So, I mean, am I still an example? I don't know. But I do hope to be an inspiration for other people and leave a legacy based on that. Yeah.
Even if I would say you're an example, just so you know, I'd vote for that. But you could be listening to this and you're from Japan and you live in France. Like you're dealing with this maybe from a different cultural perspective, different cultures than yours, but the example that you're leading in that you're helping people through your book, through your podcast, through your story, and telling your story. Other people from other places in the world are having a similar experience, just in a different context, different country, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they can learn from you, and I think you're an example then. So,
Thanks.
right? And I think that's your heart. I think that's why you want to do this. You want to share this message so that the young Urmi would have somebody to look up to, like you talked about. You want to be that for that other person. So
Yeah.
they have someone. They don't feel alone
Yeah.
like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole purpose. Like I don't want people to feel alone exactly. And like you said, like depending on you don't have to be necessarily Bengali time. You can be, like you said,
Yeah,
Japanese, French, and go through the same
yeah.
struggle because I know they do. I have met people who go through the same struggle. So it doesn't matter from which country we come from, all third culture kids go through the same struggle.
So one of the fun things about podcasting, which you're going to know and love over time, Yirmi, is that people listen to your show, they fall in love with you as a host. They come for the content, they come for what you talk about, But over time, they have a relationship with you because you keep showing up. They make time for you in their calendar, and they look forward to you showing up for the next time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a relationship, even though they've never met you, because you show up and they listen to you. They really build you into their life. So with that in mind, we as podcasters get to talk to them directly. They're listening with their ears and earbuds, and we have personal relationship with them through a podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn the podcast over to you. This is now your podcast. Living the Next Chapter is Urmi's new podcast. I want you to talk to the person who is your ideal reader for your book. And I want you to talk to that person as a single person listening about the book and why this book is important for them. Okay? It's your podcast.
Oh.
I'm going to go sit with everyone else and listen. Okay? But this is now your podcast. You're a podcaster. You can do this. But I want you to talk to the person that you want to read your book. Why is it important? Why should they read it? Why should they share it with someone else? Just more about the book to that single person that you want to read your book. What do you want to say to them? And I'm going to go sit with everybody else.
I would probably tell them that you basically learn about people's life through storytelling and through books. And if you want to educate yourself, especially if you have people around you that are multicultural, that go through, struggles of being third culture kids, and this is your book to choose because you want to be aware of what's out there. And you also want to come to a space where you don't have judgments. We live in a world where we do have these biases, especially when we see people, but we want to be careful about how we approach and how we assume things because not everyone is the same thing. And we want to be mindful about that. And so this is what the book will teach you. It will help you to be a bit more knowledgeable on how you should be approaching people who are different than you. And it will give you also an opportunity to educate yourself about what's out there.
What about for people, Urmi, that are in Italy? Your family comes to Italy, and you're born there, and you're trying to figure out how to live in a new country. Any words to somebody who's native to that country when a family like yours comes? How can that country, how can those citizens be more welcoming, more encouraging for any country? What should we do for a family that comes to our country for the first time? And just the battle that you're talking about between what the culture was where you left, the new culture when you come. How can a country and how can citizens help people who come to their country to find their place? What can they do?
So there are little things that can be done. I think one of the biggest things that we should be doing, like especially for someone moving to Italy, is being able to celebrate diversity and also having places such as, for people, let's say a Muslim family moving to Italy, like having more places where people can go and pray, like mosque.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the things. In restaurants, having the option where people can eat, let's say, halal food, or having more halal places, or having places where, let's say the bread. I'm going to give you a very simple example. Like we never bought like bread, the sliced bread in the supermarket because there was always something that we could not eat. So being mindful of that, like not putting, or having the option of, where there is no pork or anything with alcohol, having that kind of option because, reading the labels at each time you're buying something, it can be lengthy. So that too is another thing for that particular country, like the host country, to be open to learn from other cultures, not to be close to their own culture, but to be open and learn about what's out there and be willing to try the different things that other cultures can offer. For instance, I never told to any of my friends that I was eating with my hands because we have a tendency to eat rice with our hands. But I could never say it because I know that someone, like one of my friends, was saying, "Oh my gosh, in this country they eat with their hands." And when I heard that comment, I was like, "I'm not gonna say anything about my own culture." But then I come to Canada and I see people eating with, with their hands. So I'm like, I think it's fine. So there's nothing to be ashamed of, to be open on it, to be open about that. But I also think that even for the family who's moving there, to be open about integrating, like
Good point.
that's it. Like it goes both ways. I think sometimes we move to a new country, we just think that, we're going to continue how it was at home, but it doesn't work like that. You have to integrate and you have to assimilate the other culture. It doesn't mean you are giving up your own culture. It just means that, you're being part of the other cultures as well, but you can still maintain your roots. And so I would say, it always goes both ways. To make it work, it has to go both ways.
Yeah. So if I got on a plane and went to India as a Canadian, I wouldn't expect people from India to become Canadian because I'm there, right? No, I came to your country, so I need to figure out how I can fit into the culture there, right? Same thing. So yeah, I like that you give both perspectives on that.
Yeah.
We have to adapt and they need to adapt. We need an agreement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Coming to a common point, basically.
Yeah. Smart. Well, okay. I love it. Urmi, I could talk to you all day. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the podcast. I know I'm going to have you back on the How to Podcast series to talk about your show in more detail, to celebrate your new show and all of that. I'll have a link. I have your link tree. We'll put that in the show notes. But is there a place where people can follow you on social media? Is there somewhere where you are active, where people can connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. My LinkedIn is very active. It's called Urmi Hossain. My YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. There's also my podcast called Stories Beyond Borders, and of course, there's the book that everyone can purchase from Amazon. And if they have Kindle, they can just read it for free. So those are the places where people can find more about me.
Excellent, Urmi. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, congratulations. And I need to learn 3.5 more languages to catch up with you. So I got a lot of work to do. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really great to have you here.
Thank you.
Hey, as we exit the podcast, as we leave out the door, I know the car's running. Somebody's eagerly waiting for you to get out there and go home. As we exit the podcast, I just want to ask, if you have time, I would truly appreciate it. We ask for you to do this for our authors. When you buy your book, we ask you to leave a review. Why? Because it means a lot to the author and it tells other people that the book is great. Now, you don't hear me ask for this very often, so I'm going to do this here because we're friends, right? You and I are friends. I would love a review of this show because it'll tell more people to come and listen to this podcast. So if you have Apple, wherever you're listening, there's probably some way to give a star rating or leave a comment about the show. YouTube, you can always leave comments on YouTube. Every episode's there. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a review, leave a rating, and share this with somebody. That's probably the best way to grow the podcast, is for you to share it. And by listening to the end of the episode, like you're doing right now, tells all the apps this is a good podcast. So thank you for already helping me by listening to this part. But go leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for being part of the podcast family.